Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chats, Curls, and Sanity. My name is Alex, and welcome back, or if you're near here, welcome. So, this week's episode is going to be an entirely different topic. It's not having nothing to do with family or anything like that. Just more a little bit of what happened after I left my dad's house. Yeah, there was somebody that did suggest, or not suggest, but she wanted to know kind of how I got out of my dad's house and how I ended up going to college in another city. So, we're gonna go ahead and get started with this week's video. Yeah. When I graduated high school, I ended up graduating high school top 10%. So, of course, there was like three colors of from the school that I went to, and I think like the top like 1 through 10 students were in white, and I was in blue, and that was the 10%. Um, so I did get a lot. I think you get like automatic admissions or something like that when you're top 10% and above. I think you get like a automatic admission or something. I don't know, something like that. And so, I mean, I always loved school, not the concept of actually going, but I just liked the learning and sometimes the homework, sometimes not. If the teachers gave or like handed out homework that was like just way too crazy and too much work. But overall, I feel like my like academically, I never really had a problem in that area. But so I remember like at my high school, I'm pretty sure all high schools do this, but they have like a college fair, and it's only I think it's juniors and seniors that do it. I don't know. I can't remember what grade I was in that we had that college fair, but I remember I think I was a junior, cuz I think at that time you already kind of start um applying to schools, and like if you want to apply for scholarships and things like that. So I remember, yeah, I think it was junior year that happened. But I remember there was like a bunch of schools, of course, like the local university. They went, and then a local community college as well, and then just like a bunch of other schools that I guess they were able to get recruiters from. So I remember this one school, and I saw it and I was like, oh, like that seemed pretty cool, like to go there, because in my mind, like since all of that happened when I was younger and when I was growing up, my mind was straight. I'm gonna leave, and I'm never gonna turn back. And I feel like that's how a lot of people are in this, like in my city. I feel like a lot of people are kind of just like, oh, I want to get out of here. Like, I can't wait to graduate high school and then like just fucking leave. And I know that there are like a good amount of people that I went to school with and that I graduated with that they just completely left this like the state. It's like even just like not even just the city, like they literally just left the state itself. So I know like a couple of people are like in an opposite on the opposite side of Texas, and like just like in different areas of Texas. And then I know that there's a couple of people like in Colorado or something like that. I don't know, like I guess. And the only reason why I know is just from what people post on their Instagram stories and on their Instagram or whatever. So I decided, so the school that I went to, for I only went there 1 year, and it was UHV, which is it was like a branch of University of Houston, but it was in Victoria, Texas. And it was a small school. I mean, I think now they kind of added a bunch of buildings, and I think when I was there, they were starting to build a building that was going to be done like for the next fall season, or like for the next fall semester. Um But I only went 1 year there, 2 semesters, only because it was just super expensive for me. I didn't get a scholarship because I was just stupid and I didn't apply for. I think they had like a their scholarship that they had there was like a president's scholarship or something like that. And I feel like if I would have applied for it, I would have gotten it. But in my mind, I was kind of just like, I just want to get out of there. Like, I just want to get out of where I am. I want to leave and just, that's it. So I didn't really think to do that scholarship. I feel like if I would have had that scholarship, I definitely would have stayed over there. But so the deal with my dad was that he was going to help us pay for our first year of college. And then after that, it was kind of like, it's on you. You kind of have to deal with like how you're going to pay for it, whether you took out loans and things like that. So my dad makes too much money for us to qualify for financial aid, like grants and things like that. So all that was awarded to me was loans. So he took out the loans, but well, that's a story. But he ended up taking out the loans to help pay for my school, like the parent subsidized and unsubsidized loans that they offer. Because when you first get your FAFSA, you have to apply like if you're still in the household of your parents. And then, of course, if you have certain things like if you're a parent or like you're married or things like that, it'll make you like independent and you can use your own like income tax or whatever for that. I mean, that's a whole other issue and thing or whatever, but I decided that I was like, I'm gonna leave or go as far away as possible. I did want to stay in Texas because, of course, tuition is a little bit less expensive. Like, it's less expensive when you're in state, when you have the in state tuition versus out of state tuition. So I was like, no, you know what? I'm just gonna stay in the state. I want to move somewhere else in Texas. So I decided to go to UHV. I remember, so when I was gonna be like an incoming freshman, right? So of course there was like all the, um, like the orientation and all the like the family events and things like that or whatever. I remember I think all of us went for the orientation, but I think it was only me and my dad that went to the actual orientation itself, and I think the rest of the family ended up staying like at the hotel waiting for us. I don't know if they did like their own thing, like if they went like to the pool at the hotel or what they did during the day. I really don't know, but my dad and I were at the orientation the whole like day or whatever. And so I mean, me, I really loved it. I mean, if I had the chance back then, if I'm I don't even know how to say it, but I feel like if I would have had the money to go, I would have still kept going, but I couldn't, right? So I remember like touring the school. I mean, the school at the time, so there was like dorms, right? They weren't like physically on campus, but they were like there was like a but like shuttles that would take you from the dorms to the um I think the I'm not even kidding you. I think it had like 3 buildings, if that, and I think it was like sort of connected, or there was like I think we shared a library with the community college there in Victoria. Um, and I didn't even know like literally Victoria, Texas, like didn't even it was never a city that I knew growing up. I mean, I I knew of all the other cities, like all like bigger cities like San Antonio, Dallas, Texas, um, Houston, Fort Worth, like those sorts of cities, but I never even knew anything remotely close to Victoria. So, yeah, I I ended up going over there. Um, I think so for my freshman year going into so yeah, let me go back to that anyway. So it was a very, very small school. It was still a university. and it was actually a D1 school. So all the sports were D1. And I only say that because it kind of pertains to the whole story. So, um, I remember, I think it kind of came as a shock to everybody in my family that I was like just gonna up and leave, and I was just I feel like my family were kind of just like, oh, we're never gonna see her ever again, like maybe just for like summer breaks and things like that, but more than likely she's just gonna stay over there and we're never gonna see her ever again, kind of thing. And so, it was actually so I was gonna have a roommate. So, and I was gonna live in the dorms because obviously, where else would I live? And I think as freshmen, you have to stay in the dorms, or if you're local, like if you were actually from Victoria, you could have like stayed at your parents' house or whatever. Because obviously, dorms and all that stuff is more expensive than. I mean, right? It's like that with every university. And so, yeah, I think it was a requirement if I'm not mistaken. And especially, I feel like that school was like a very international, like a lot of international um, students went to that school. And so when I was gonna go in, I obviously they gave me like the contact information for the girl that I was gonna be roommates with, and we reached out to each other and we were like, hey, like I'm Alex, da 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 da, whatever. Like I just want to like reach out to you since we're gonna be living together, things like that. So how that I don't know if it's the same. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing, but that school had the dorms like I guess they were like old hotels, and like the freshman dorm, I guess you can say, which was the one that I was staying in, it was like an old motel. Um and then obviously they like revamped it into dorms, and then the building right next to there was like a hotel, so there were a little bit nicer dorms. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think you can either choose either or, but I think most of the freshmen stayed in the dorm that I was in. And so I lived very far away from there. Live I want to say like 8 or 9 hours away from that school. So it was a long trip. Of course, it wasn't like a 2 hour trip where, oh, okay, we're going to go and we're going to come back. We're going to go and come back kind of thing. Like it was not like that. I mean, we had to make like a whole road trip of it. So when they were going to drop me off the first time, so I think my roommate wasn't gonna stay at that time. I think she was gonna come in like a couple of days after me, so I had to get dropped off a little bit earlier than her. And she only lived like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours away the from the school. So of course it was like an easier drive for her than it was for me. And my dad was gonna leave me, but um it ended up happening that it was during Hurricane Harvey. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was like 2017. Yeah, 2017. And I ended up getting in contact with my roommate, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? Like my parent, like my dad is going to have to leave me already, but he kind of heard about the Hurricane Harvey and all that stuff, right? So, but we couldn't just like, oh, let's just go back home, wait it out, and then come back, because I think school ended up being postponed because of the hurricane, because it hit very harsh in that city in Victoria. So my roommate and her parents had offered for me to stay at their house um, just until we were able to go back into the dorms. And so, I mean, I had already had most of my stuff there at the school, so I already had like all the stuff that you get for your dorm, you know what I mean? Like your like I had most of my clothes there. I mean, they provide like the bed and like the desk and stuff like that. So I just had like my basics there, like my books and my like just necessities, I guess you could say, like the dorm things. So I ended up asking my dad to buy me like a mattress topper, like the mattress topper, because the mattress on the dorm are so disgusting. Like they're not comfortable whatsoever. So yeah, I ended up leaving my stuff there, and they were like, oh well, you know, you can drive over here to my house, and you like you can stay with us. So that's what we did. I mean, of course, when I think about it now, I'm like, oh fuck, like I just went with a completely random person, a stranger, and her family. Like, it's crazy that I stayed there and I didn't get fucking kidnapped and sex trafficked or whatever, you know? So, I mean, that's just me in my head thinking that, you know, like, oh, like my fear is like getting kidnapped and being sold, and, you know, and then them fucking killing me and chopping me up into a million pieces and then fucking never see me ever again. You know what I mean? So it's just crazy how I was kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, you know, I mean, of course I was nervous about it, and I was like, oh shit, like I've never met this person before in my entire existence, and we're gonna be living together. It's crazy. And I ended up staying at her house for a good while. I mean, it was a good 2 weeks or so. I mean, before it was only gonna be a couple days, and then it ended up being maybe like a week or two, maybe even 2.5, I would say. Um, because the hurricane was pretty crazy, and it did hit really hard at the university that I was at. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I would have stayed in the dorms, I think we ended up they ended up having to evacuate. So everybody that was already there at the dorms, which most of them were all of the people that were in sports, they had to evacuate, and I think they ended up going to UH, so like the main school in Houston. So I think from so Victoria's like dab smack in the middle of Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. I think it's a little bit closer to Austin, Houston, and Dallas. I think those are the three main cities that it's close to. So I think they had like an hour and a half drive to Houston, and because I think the school that so I think UHV was closer to the coast, I think, or like closer to like wherever, I don't know. Um, so yeah, I so where my roommate was from, it's I do you think I would have ever known this fucking city more than fucking Victoria? Bitch, I was in a fucking town called Flatonia, Texas. Flatonia, like Flatonia, Texas. Like, hello? Like, it was such a small town. And I'm gonna say town because it was tiny. It wasn't even, I don't even think you can consider it a fucking city. I think it was like maybe 1,000 people, maybe even less than that, like 700 or something like that. One like light, like, and like I don't know what the fuck are they called, like um like street lights or street, I don't know, like wherever the fuck you stop and it's a fucking intersection and it's the lights, you know what I mean? And only one, and it was the ones that fucking hang from a wire. It wasn't even like a whole like metal post. It was literally hanging from a fucking wire, the long ones. And so we got there, and then of course over there, like more towards where we were, of course it was more, they had the like this southern accent. And I think I ended up I'm I might be like just me just being stupid, but I feel like I really did get that kind of southern accent a little bit when I was there, even though it was only for a year. But I feel like when it's very different from where you are and like where you grew up, I feel like it's very, very, very different. So, or at least for me, it was. And I ended up kind of picking up a little bit of a southern accent. Sometimes I can even hear myself sometimes when I talk to other people. I kind of have to like fix my voice in a way so that I don't sound like that. But when I came back, like all I said was like y'all, and like I don't know, I just feel like cuz here like where I'm from, it's there's not that at all. Like you don't like not nobody talks like that here, you know what I mean? So when I came back, like all my family was like making fun of me, like more so like my sister and like my cousins and stuff. They're like, "Oh, y'all this and y'all that," like just very whatever. So, and of course they're not used to it either. So me coming back and talking like that, they're kind of like, "What the fuck, bitch? Like you're fucking Hispanic as shit and you're talking like a fucking like if you're from the ranch and shit, you know?" So, um and not that everybody talks like that when like if they're from the ranch, but like very like I guess like the stereotypical cowboy ranch type thing, right? So yeah, I ended up staying with her and her family. She had two younger sisters, then it was her. Um I might talk about it in this one, or I might talk about it in another episode, but oh my god, she was fine in the at the beginning, and then towards the end, because at the end I want to say closer to the end of like that school year, we just fell off, and it was just the worst thing ever. It was just very a hostile fucking situation. I hated it. It was just very uncomfortable and just very annoying and just in a way like very scary. But yeah, I'll get into that. So I have always been a biology major. I even when I was over there, I was a biology major, so um obviously I had like my biology classes, and I had like my math classes and things like that, just like your basics when you first get into school, because a lot of people end up changing their majors. So the first year and a half, 2 years, you're just working on your basics pretty much. And then like once you start getting into the classes of like, okay, now I need to figure out what if you are like undecided or things like that. But I never had that problem. I always knew I wanted to be biology. I was pre-med for 2.5 years, and then I came back home and I was kind of like, I'm not gonna go to medical school, fuck that, you know. I just kind of just wanted to graduate, and that was that. So yeah, I mean, so yeah, my family ended up leaving me there at her house, and so we were there, whatever. Her parents are Hispanic, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think her dad only spoke Spanish, and then her mom, she spoke both. And I mean, her parents were really nice. They were very, very nice people. I will always thank them. I don't talk to them now to this day, but I just in a sense of just like, oh, like I'm very grateful that they did what they did, and they brought me in and they treated me like if I was their own. And that's something that kind of it's always a question to me. It's like, oh shit, like how her parents are and how she's like the complete opposite, or she made herself to seem like if she was something and she really wasn't. So so yeah, so we ended up staying there, and then I don't know if that was crooked this entire time, but anyways, so I ended up staying there, and then we were gonna go back to school, but then it ended up getting postponed again because the hurricane was just like it was still in full effect. And where we were, so I want to say where Flatonia is, if I'm not mistaken. I think we were closer to Dallas than we were to Houston. So we ended up having to evacuate Flatonia. I don't know if everybody else did, but I think her parents just got very scared and just very worried that we were gonna like the hurricane was gonna hit way more than what it already was. So they decided to take us all to Dallas. So we ended up going to Dallas because I think the the mom had a sister that lived in Dallas. I think it was we were in Allen, Texas, but it's pretty much like the little, like kind of like the outskirts of Dallas, but it's still considered Dallas, I guess. I don't know. And we so yeah, we ended up driving over there, and it was her both of her parents, mom and dad, her her two younger sisters, and myself. And so yeah, we ended up driving over there. We were there for maybe a couple of days, I think. I think like 2 or 3 days we were over there in Dallas. And then I think the hurricane ended up kind of calming down a little bit, and they decided to go back to their hometown or whatever. And so we ended up going staying there, and then I think we were fine to go to school. I think school was gonna start up that next coming week or something like that. So we were like, oh, you know what, like we'll just go, because she had a car, and we were like, oh yeah, we'll just go back to school and, you know, get ourselves situated and kind of get ourselves ready for the first week of school. So that's what we did. We ended up going, and she drove her car, and it was both her and I in the car driving back to the dorms. And this whole time, I mean, I've been communicating with my family. I've been telling, like, hey, you know what, this happened, this, and this, whatever. Um, and so yeah, I mean, I was pretty much in the eye of the storm, I guess you can say, with that hurricane. And I mean, the only really thing that I really loved about that like that city, Victoria, was it rained a lot. And I feel like areas kind of closer to the water, obviously there's more water around, there's more like precipitation and all that stuff, like rain or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Well, not whatever the fuck you want to call it, it literally is rain. But I loved it because I love rain. Like, I love that kind of weather. I love the rain, and I hate the heat. I fucking can't stand it because I hate sweating. I feel so disgusting, and it's just, you can't cool yourself off, and it's just so annoying. And with the cold, you can just bundle yourself up, and that's just what it is, and you can get yourself warm. But so yeah, it rained a lot, and I really, really, really love the rain. Just like very gloomy weather. So yeah, we ended up going to school. I had a meal plan, so I ate at school. I don't know how much times we were able to go in, but I think you were able to get breakfast, and you were able to get like lunch and dinner or something like that. I really don't know. I don't know how any of that worked. Now that I think about it, I don't remember any of that. So so the dorms that I were at, so it was literally like a motel, like but they just like reconstructed it to be dorms, and it was all the way around, top and bottom. And out on the outside there was like dorms, and then on the inside there were dorms. Like, it was like a main, I don't know, I don't even know how to describe it. So pretty much like you walk into the building, and to your left is kind of like where the the receptionist of the hotel would be, but it was like the main office kind of thing for RAs. And then like an RA would be like posted there if anybody needed anything or anything like that, or if there was any packages, whatever. And then to the left, no, so that was to the left, and to the right, when you're walking in, there's like the entrance to the dining hall. And then when you go into the dining hall, you would there's like like a lady, like a cafeteria lady, I guess you can say, and she would scan your ID, and you would go in and you can get whatever you want. It wasn't like you have to pay for, or you have to scan your ID for every item that you get. You pretty much just scan your ID, and that's just what it is, and you can go and get cereal, and then you can get sandwiches if they had sandwiches, or if they had like a dessert or whatever. And I know, like, with a lot of I don't know if that's how it is now. I really don't know. That was only my first year. I don't know if it changed after that. And there was some good food. and then there were just some that I was like disgusting and I just didn't want to eat. But I remember um always going with my roommate because we had an outside dorm, so our door was in the, to the outside. And but so let's say like if you're still in the front, that's to the right, that's to the left, and if you were to go straight, there's more doors, and that's doors to actually enter the actual like, not to enter the dorms themselves, but it's kind of like a common area, and it was all like carpeted. And then there's dorms, like dorm rooms. I don't know. Maybe I can find pictures and I'll post it for you guys because I feel like me describing it just doesn't make any fucking sense. But but I think you had to have your ID to go into those doors because obviously it's dorms. You know what I mean? And then you would just walk straight across, and then there was more doors after that to lead to the outside. And so we would go through there, and then I remember from there you would turn to your left, and my dorm was like the third door if you were to turn to your left. And so it's crazy because I feel like it feels like if it was just like another life that I kind of lived. You know what I mean? Like it feels like it was either like a lifetime ago, or it felt like, oh, it just feels like if that was like a completely different person living that life, and now I'm living my life right now to this moment. So yeah, it was I know that there was some dorms that were single and there were some that were double. So there was a girl that I became friends with towards, I want to say, towards the end of the first semester. So I don't know if I want to say her name. I'm just gonna call her Betty. We'll call her Betty. And she had a single dorm, so she had a dorm all to herself, and that's what I wanted. But obviously, the single ones are a little bit more expensive, and they go by like that. And I'm pretty sure that's how it is with every other dorm. I feel like there's some that are singles, and there's some that are like you have a roommate. And I think it was for sure only two to a dorm, and then I think in the other building it was up to four to a dorm, because it was the way that one worked, it had two restrooms, it had like a little kitchen, and then it had um four bedrooms, so like two on one side with the bathroom, two on the other side with the bathroom. And those were like a lot nicer, and of course those were a lot more expensive. And I didn't my roommate didn't really drive her car that much, unless it was like we wanted to go out to eat or we wanted to drive somewhere or whatever. There was like a very like tiny little mall there, and that was pretty much it. I mean, it's also a very small city as well, a lot bigger than Flatonia, Texas. That's for sure, but very definitely smaller than my city for sure. Um, but yeah, so my roommate, we're gonna call her Sarah. So Sarah at the beginning, she was very nice. She was very like, her hospitality was very up there. She was very nice. I didn't see any red flags when it came to her, like nothing at all. And I think she was also a biology major as well. But I think we had different credits already, so I had a little bit of credits, like dual credit classes, or dual credit courses that I had in high school that helped me out in college. So I didn't really have to take a lot of the what are they called, like the basics. So and I don't know why, and still to this day it irks the fuck out of me. Usually when you take your so for my major, we have I have to take 5 chemistry classes. So you would think, of course, I had to have my basics. So usually they give you your basics, and I think my first semester at in school I had uh, a math class, and then I had an English, but my English I was above, so I think I was taking a sophomore level class in like my freshman year, and then I had a university class. I had a biology class, and I think that was it. Like it was like a basic biology, like the first ones. But I wondered why they never told me, cuz you have to go to an advisor, and they never told me to take chemistry. Like they were never like, "Oh, you should take your chemistry." I feel like if I would have taken my chemistry there at that school, I would have already graduated by now. But that's all I'm missing now. Like when all I'm taking right now is fucking chemistry, and that's literally it. Because right now, excuse me, I'm taking OChem 2 with the lab, and I'm taking molecular cell biology with the lab. So I don't know why, because then after that I'll take biochemistry. I'll take like a professional class or whatever, and then I'll take a, what other class do I need? I know I need 3 more after this semester. For sure the biochem. The biochem doesn't have a lab, thank Jesus Christ. Um the professional development, or that it's literally called professional development. And I think I'm missing another class. I'll have to look into it because I don't remember. But oh, it's like a vertebrate class. It's a zoology, but that one's only offered in the fucking spring, so that's why I had to wait until the spring to graduate. So yeah, I ended up taking the first biology there, and then so yeah, we kind of had similar classes, but not really. She had like completely different classes than I did. So our I think our days started around the same time. I think there was days where I went in earlier than her, and there was times where I went in later than her. And from the very get-go, I knew she was kind of spoiled in a way. She kind of gave off the vibes of being very spoiled. Her dad was like, you can tell she was definitely a daddy's girl for sure. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know what I mean? But I feel like it gets too excessive times sometimes, where they feel like they're entitled to everything, and they feel like they need everything, and just whatever. But um yeah. So I took those classes, and in my biology class I ended up making friends with this guy. His name, we'll call him Bert. I don't know. So Bert, I know he was gay, but he was still kind of not, he wasn't comfortable coming out as gay. But you can tell, and he kind of gave me those hints that he was, but of course I didn't push him, and I was like, "Oh, like are you gay?" Like I wasn't going to be like that, you know what I mean? So Bert, I ended up, and the reason why I ended up becoming friends with him was because we were in the same group in biology. And from there um he was already friends with the girl from before that I said that I was friends with. What did I name her? Well, the first girl that I was talking about, I don't remember her name. I can't remember what name I gave her, but we're just gonna call her Melissa because I don't remember her name. So he introduced me to Melissa, and then there was another girl in the group as well, and her name, we'll call her Jessica. So Bert was friends with Melissa and Jessica, and there was another girl too. I don't remember her name, but So I started hanging out with them, and that was that. Melissa will be the girl that would had the single dorm. Hopefully, I don't confuse you guys, but that's that's what it'll be. Um, so yeah, I started becoming friends with them, and for the most part, when I first started school, it was always just me and my roommate. It was just us all the time, us hanging out with each other because I I'm very shy. I don't make friends just like that, like just very spontaneous. I'm not a social butterfly whatsoever. I'm quite the opposite of that. And sometimes I'm just like, how the fuck did I end up being friends with this person? Like, I don't remember. But this one for sure, I do remember that Bert introduced me to Melissa and Jessica. So I started getting a lot closer to them, and then of course Sarah would come around, and cuz she didn't really have she didn't make, from what I know, she didn't have friends besides me. Of course she might have talked to other people in her classes and things like that. I don't know, but for sure that. And so I started hanging out more with them, the three of those, the new characters in this story, but or this, yeah, I guess whatever. Um, and then it kind of started becoming a little bit weird because Sarah, I don't know if she got jealous or if she was just annoyed or what it was, but it specifically, I remember exactly where I knew it began. So we were all, because Melissa had a car, and we all decided to go to the roller rink in the city. No, yeah. So we all decided to go there, and no. And the only reason why we knew of the roller rink was because the school had a lot of events, and there was one there at the roller rink. And I think it was like 80s theme or something like that. Like that was like the theme of it, but both my roommate and I, we both went together to that event. And from then, so then when I started becoming friends with Bert, Melissa, and Jessica, we all decided, oh, let's all go to the roller rink. Let's all like we'll go and skate. And I remember, keep in mind, Sarah was already dressed at this point. She had already, I think she was wearing like jeans and like some shoes and like a t-shirt, let's say, right? So I went into the restroom because obviously I wasn't like, we didn't change in front of each other. You know what I mean? Like we share, like we literally shared. I don't know if I have pictures of the dorm, but if I do, I'll kind of give you guys a visual of what it looks like. So I went into the restroom, which had like the toilet and the shower, and I walked in, I changed real quick, and I came out. So what I was wearing was, I don't know if it was like a style back then when I was like high school, like senior year, going like the following year, but it was like the oh my god, what are they called? Like the bras that would like hook in the middle, and then it kind of like was a halter top kind of situation, but it was a bra. And it was like that, like late, like a cute like lace, like black one. And then I had a like a maroon, or even like just like a regular black or like oversized tee that kind of like came off of the shoulder a little bit. I tied it in the front, and then I had leggings on, black leggings, and then I had just like some Vans. So I remember I was dressed. I came out. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Are you ready to go?" And she was like, "Oh, like you can wait for me outside because I think everybody was waiting for us outside at this point." And she's like, "Oh, like just give me a second. Like I just need to grab something real quick, and then I'll meet you guys outside." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like bet." So we walked outside. I greeted everybody, whatever. And then I was like, "Oh, okay. Like are you guys ready to go? Like whatever." And I think half of us went with Sarah, and then the other half went with Melissa. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I went with Melissa in her car, and then I think Bert and Jessica, we all went in Melissa's car, and then Sarah went with another girl. I don't the girl that I told you, I can't remember her name. So we're waiting in the car, and then Sarah comes out of our dorm. She locks the door, and she's wearing literally the exact same thing as me. Like, I'm not even kidding you, to the exact T. Like, she had the oh my god, if I cannot remember the fucking name of that clothing item, but if I'm gonna look it up and I'll put it right here on the screen of what it is, and I'll give you a picture of it, of what it looks like. She had like an oversized t-shirt, but I think instead of black it was maroon. So yes, I was wearing black, and she ended up getting a maroon one, pretty much almost the exact same thing, and leggings. And I was like, bro, like, she was literally just in jeans. She just had a t-shirt on. Like, she said she needed something, and she comes out with a whole entirely different outfit exactly like mine. And then I was like, what the fuck? And then Melissa was like, girl, like, she's wearing the same exact thing as you. And I was like, yeah. We were all kind of talking about it when we got there, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like, she's been kind of acting weird. And she was acting weird. I think I was talking more with Melissa, Bert, and Jessica, when with all of them more than her. So um I remember being with them a lot more, and going, since some of the days that we went to school, I think I went to school Monday through Friday. Um, and a lot of the times, or like there was a couple days, I think, out of the week where Sarah, I had a different schedule than Sarah. It was like a completely different, like, opposite. And I ended up hanging out a lot with Bert and them. And so I don't know if she got jealous, or she was kind of like, ugh, like, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for her, and I can't say, oh yeah, she was jealous of me having more friends. But it kind of seemed like that way. And I had already talked to them, like, telling them, like, oh, like, she's kind of weird, like, not her, like, specifically, but it just her having those jealous kind of, not outbursts, but those kind of characteristics and things like that. And so we got there, and I was kind of like creeped out, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, she's literally changed to go and dress the exact same way as me. And we got there, whatever, we skated. I didn't want it to ruin that, like, our day. So yeah, from then I kind of got weirded out, to be honest with you. I was kind of like, oh, I kind of want to distance myself from her. I don't know, like, I didn't know why she got the way she got. And and then slowly, little by little, I kind of just stopped talking to her less and less and less. I mean, I was kind of just like, I don't really want to deal with this anymore. And so that's when it started kind of being hostile, and just very, very awkward, and just very, I never wanted to be in my dorm room anymore. I tried to time it to where when I was there, she wasn't. Or I mean, the only really times that I was there when she was there at the same time was when we were sleeping. I would pretend to be asleep, and I knew that she had a class earlier than me, and I would pretend to be asleep. I would wait for her to leave, and then I kind of just, and then that's when I got up and I started doing things for the day or whatever. And so yeah, it's really weird. And then um I don't know if it was like some voodoo shit or whatever, but I remember her saying that either her grandma on her mom's side or her dad's side, I don't remember exactly which one it was, but she told me that the grandma had used like black magic, or like voodoo or something like that. And at first I didn't think anything of it at the time, because we were still friends at the time. There was um no jealousy or no weirdness between us. So I kind of just took the story as it was, and, oh, okay, it's just a story and that's it. And I remember I would wake up, um there would be times where I would go to sleep, I'd wake up and I'd have bruises all over my legs. Like unrealistic bruises. It wasn't like I just bumped myself on the frame of the bed, or I ran into the wall or whatever. It was like if I had continuously like hit myself all around my legs, and there was just black bruises all over my legs. And then like a day or two later, they would be completely gone. Like it wasn't like they're healing and they like turn purple and then they turn yellowish, yellow purple, and then they're kind of fading and then they kind of go away. It wasn't like that at all. It was like pure black bruises, and I wish I and I sh- I f- wish I would have taken pictures of them because they were just very odd. Like it was just like bruise after bruise after bruise after bruise, like on both legs, and it was all the way from like my hip all the way down, like to my ankles. Oh my god, I sounded weird. But there was like a bubble stuck in my throat, but it was just very weird, and I was like, oh shit, like what if she starts using that shit on me? And so I ended up telling, who did I tell? I think I told my sister, and my sister told my grandma, and my grandma was like very worried about me and just scared that, I don't know why I keep twisting this mic, but yeah, I think she had said that my grandma was like praying for me, and my grandma was like very worried and stuff like that, and what if it really was like something like that, you know? And I remember um before I left, my grandma gave me, she loves elephants. She well, had a bunch of little figurines, and like a bunch of elephants like everywhere. And when I left, she ended up giving me an elephant, and she was like, "Oh, like just for good luck, and just for," that was kind of her way of like safety. You know what I mean? Like, and just like a little, like a memory of like home, and like just like let you know, like I'm always thinking of you, like that kind of thing. And she had also given me like, cause like I said in my previous videos, I do come from a Catholic family, and she had given me a bottle of holy water. And I remember being so scared that I ended up like getting the holy water, and I was praying, and I was like pouring it like at the head of my bed, and at the like the bottom, like where my feet were, and like everywhere that I could possibly imagine. And I was like, oh my god, like cuz I'm not a religious person, like I'm not, but I was like, oh, maybe like if I pray, like it won't get to me, you know what I mean? I don't know what is wrong with my throat right now. Oh my god. So, I should have brought in water. So yeah. Oh my god. I feel like my eyes look so red right now, but anyways. So, yeah, that was like a very scary time, and that's when I knew, oh no, like I'll never be friends with this girl ever again, cuz I feel like she's doing some shit to me. And oh my god, it feels like my throat is like closing up. But anyways, so yeah, I feel like this is definitely going to be like a part 2 series of like my time over there in Houston, because it's definitely like a lot to unpack. So yeah, I ended up completely kind of shutting her out. I remember I would leave her notes on the like post-it notes on the door, and not in the outside, but like on the inside where we were. And I would like, oh, like make sure you lock the door when you leave, because there was times where she would just leave and she wouldn't lock the door. And I understand, like, oh, you're there, like just get up and like lock the door for yourself. But those times where I was like in the shower, You know what I mean? And like I would come outside and she left the door unlocked. Like what if somebody walked in, I was showering, like, and so like I would leave her notes like, "Oh, like can you please, I think I have a picture of one of the post-it notes. If I find it, I'll post it here on the screen somewhere." And I remember like telling her, "Oh, can you please lock the door when you leave?" or something like that. And then or I can't remember what she had said, but um or maybe it was the other way around. And it was, but I remember there was times where she would leave and the door was unlocked and I was in the shower or I was in the restroom. Like how the fuck am I supposed to know like if somebody's gonna like just walk in, you know? Like of course. And the way that it was in like a locked, like gated dorms either. Like you can easily get into the like the into the property or like the where like the that like the dorms were at just by like driving, and you're like facing the the dorms, but or like the outside ones at least. And because of course when you walk in from the, I think after a certain time, I think you're able to like walk into the lobby area without an ID. But like I said, like the second set of doors, when you walk in, you have to have your ID and you have to like tap it in order for it to open the door. And kind of like how like hospitals are, kind of like where the doctors and nurses and all like the staff have their ID and they have to tap it in order for the doors to like open and shit. So yeah, I ended up with a psycho ass roommate. It literally felt like, and then I ended up watching that movie like a couple years afterwards, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is literally almost exactly the same thing that fucking happened to me. Obviously not to the extent of the fucking movie, but it was just like some scary shit. And yeah, it was just very awkward after that. I mean, we never said hi to each other, we never said bye to each other, we never acknowledged one another. Um and then of course I started hanging out more with Melissa, Bert, and Jessica. But I don't know what happened where the group kind of broke off. So there was one time. So keep in mind when this happened, I was 18. 18 going on 19, if that. Um I think it happened, I want to say it happened already the second semester. So there are like a little pieces here and there that I kind of want to keep for other videos, but this is kind of just something that is like it's important to know before continuing. So Bert, myself, Bert, Melissa, Jessica, and myself, there was one time where I think we ended up taking a trip to Corpus Christi, and we I think it was like I think it was just like a day thing. It wasn't like a we spent the night somewhere or anything like that. And we ended up spending the day in Corpus, and it was like a really fun thing, like whatever. And then, or it could have been the first. I honestly don't remember, but so I had, obviously we weren't 21, and obviously we couldn't buy alcohol ourselves, so I don't remember who ended up buying us alcohol. I think so Melissa had a friend, or Bert had a friend that was older than us. So I think she was like 2 years older than us, or 3 years, or something like that. I think she was like a junior going on senior or something like that, or she was a senior already. And we had convinced her to buy us alcohol. So I think she ended up buying, she bought 3 bottles. She bought a Jack Daniels, a Ciroc, um, and a Captain Morgan, I think. I could be wrong. I think I have a picture of the bottles that they're like lost in my fucking memories on Snapchat. But uh, we ended up like getting those bottles. We all pitched in to get the bottles, and so like I said in before, I genuinely think that Bert was what's that saying, like in the closet or hiding in the closet or in the closet. I don't know what the fuck saying that is, but I think that day, I think he liked somebody, and there was just, I think that was like the first ever time that he actually tried with a guy, and not like a oh made out with somebody or like to the extent of that, but just trying to talk to that other person with feelings involved. And I don't know what happened, but he ended up getting super fucked up that night, like super fucked up. And he got so fucked up to the point, I think Melissa and myself, I don't think we drank. And if we drank, it was maybe like a shot, if that. And I remember Bert was like chugging a bottle, like straight from the bottle, like chugging it. And he was just like going and going and like he just wouldn't stop. And I think at that point when I saw him, I was like, I don't really have the vibes to drink right now. Like maybe another time. And we were in Melissa's room because she didn't have a roommate. And I don't think Jessica was there that night. So I think there was also a falling out with Jessica, but I don't remember what happened with her. And Bert got like super fucked up. And I think he ended up going to the restroom and he was throwing up. And then we were like, oh, like let's go and check on him. So we went to go and check on him, and we were like, hey, like wake up, you know? Like I think he ended up like knocking out. And we're like, hey, like wake up, like dude, like wake up. And I don't know if we were making a lot of noise or what it was, or I don't remember. Because I think like after a certain time you had to like, it was like quiet time or whatever, because obviously people are like they need to go to sleep, like people need to wake up early the next day or whatever. But I think it was like during the weekend that this happened. And Bert didn't want, like he wasn't waking up. And I was like, hey, like wake up. Like we were trying to tell him in a good way, and like he just wouldn't wake up. And it got to the point like where it was kind of scary, and we were like, bro, like wake the fuck up. And I literally had to like, I had slapped him a little bit, like not super hard, but I was kind of like a little bit of force on him. Like I was like, bro, like wake the fuck up. And he wasn't waking up, and I was like, oh my god, like we were like freaking out because we were like, well, what the fuck, you know, like. And we were like, well, yeah, like he drank a lot, but we didn't think he drank that much either. But I feel like the emotional part of it also was a factor as well. I think he just wasn't in the right headspace to drink. So he started drinking and he was just gone. And I was like, well, what do I do? Like, and she was like, well, slap him. Maybe it'll kind of help him wake up a little bit. So I smacked the shit out of him. And he kind of was like, like, kind of like just making a little bit of noises. And I was like, well, what the fuck do we do, you know? So we ended up helping him to the shower. We literally just turned that bitch on and we just poured cold water all over him, clothes and everything. And he was kind of like, oh, like, he kind of woke up a little bit, but not really. So we are like, oh, shit, like, alcohol poisoning was, like, the first thing that came to my mind. So we are like, oh, fuck, like, we're fucked, you know? Like, and I think we were making a good amount of noise only because the RA ended up, like, knocking on our door. And she was like, oh, like, oh, wait. I don't know if we went outside. I think we went outside because we were trying to like get him to like throw up. and somebody must have seen him, or like there was like security guards that would like roam around and stuff, like for like safety and shit like that. And I think he saw him, and I think he called the RA, and the RA like came to the door, and we were like, oh fuck, like, because she was like, oh, like it's so and so, like, and we knew that it was the RA, so we were like, oh fuck, like, what are we gonna do, you know? So she had like a plastic bin that she had on the bottom of her bed, and she had it like for storage. And so she took it out, and we hid the bottles in there, and we were like, oh, hopefully like she won't like try to search. So I think we ended up putting it like in between like some blankets. And we put it back, and we're like, okay, like I don't think it smells like alcohol in here, you know, like there's no alcohol in my breath, there's no alcohol in your breath, like I think we should be fine. So I think she ended up like opening the door, or like we opened the door for her because we had like the double, or like the like the deadbolt kind of situation kind of thing. And she was like, "Oh, I don't know how it came to be, like how it came to be, but she ended up like, she was like, oh, like you guys, somebody saw you or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it went down, but we were like, we had him in the restroom because we were like, oh fuck, like we don't want for her to like come inside and see him. So we had him in the restroom, and I was like, bro, like shut the fuck up, do not make no fucking noise, like we're just gonna pretend like if it's just us two, like myself and Melissa, they're in the room and whatever. So she was like, oh, is there anybody else with you guys? And we were like, oh no, like there's nobody here. And then she was like, oh, I don't know, I don't know what happened, or I don't even remember what, I can't remember, but it ended up being that she was like, oh, like just tell me or whatever, something like that. So we were like, oh no, like I think he was just drinking, like we kind of like made it up like he was drinking somewhere else and he came. And then she was like, oh, okay, well I just need to make sure that he's okay. And we were like, oh no, yeah, he's fine, like he's just in the restroom, like he's fine. But I think she was like insisting, like, no, like I need to see if he's fine. So we're like, fuck, like if she sees him, we're fucked. So yeah, she ended up going. He was still like passed the fuck out. So she was like, oh, you know, like I'm gonna have to report this because something could happen to him. And we were like, fuck. So and like they ended up calling 911, and she made a report. No, I think it wasn't like 911 like the cops, but it was like an ambulance was called. And she was like, all right guys, like where are the bottles? And we were like, bottles, like what are you talking about? And I was like, fuck, like she knows, but she was cool kinda, but not really. And she's like, all right guys, like come on, like where are the bottles? And we were like, no, like we don't have bottles, like we said, like he wasn't drinking here, like there was no drinking here. And she was like, oh, like you guys are only gonna make it worse for yourselves, because then I'm gonna have to call people like above me, and they're gonna come and they're gonna search your room, or like they're gonna come and search the dorm, and if you guys have something, it's gonna be a lot worse if they find you with it. We were just like, fuck. And we were like, okay. So we ended up bringing the bottles, and I think at that point there was like hardly any alcohol left in them. And I think she ended up giving them to the security guard, and the security guard like threw them, like threw whatever was left in the bottles on the ground. And then so yeah, the fucking EMTs ended up coming, and like the ambulance came, and they came and they fucking picked him up. And the hospital was like not even far away. I think it was like right across from the dorms. And yeah, they ended up taking him to the hospital. I don't know, I think we drove there. We were waiting for him. We were waiting in the fucking lobby for like the longest fucking time. I think we were there for like a good, like at least over 8 hours for sure. I think this is a Saturday going into a Sunday. And then, so he was gonna get released, right? And like the physician, or like the ER doctor that was there was like, oh, like he's lucky, like he was on the verge of, like he had like some alcohol poisoning, but it wasn't to the extent that he had to get like his stomach pumped. And he was like, oh, like, probably one more drink and he would have had to have his stomach pumped. And we were like, oh fuck, like, you know. So yeah, that report ended up going in, and then we ended up having to write a fucking essay on like sobriety and like the dangers of drinking and just all that stuff or whatever. So yeah, I remember that shit happened. It's just crazy. So from that moment on, Melissa and I didn't really talk to Bert, and it wasn't because of the situation. It was just things leading up after, like, just everything after that. So I mean, of course, it wasn't like, oh, you almost got alcohol poisoning, I'm never gonna be your friend ever again. It wasn't like that. It was just more of he had some issues to deal with, and um he had expressed to us some of those issues and things like that, because he also came from a Hispanic background as well. And I don't remember what it was, but I think he was just scared of coming out to like his family, and especially coming from a Hispanic family, and just the repercussions of it and things like that. And um but yeah, that happened, and that shit was like scary as fuck, because I was like, oh fuck, like, are they gonna kick us out? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, are we gonna get charged with something? Like, I don't know. Like, I had never had that happen to me. Like, I've never had that experience of um having one of my friends go to the hospital because they drank too much. You know what I mean? So yeah, so from that moment on, I can't remember what happened between Melissa, Bert, and I, that we kind of fell off, and Melissa and I kind of got closer together. And so we got close with one another, and then I don't remember how it came to be. I don't even know how long this video is right now. Definitely long. So I guess we're gonna cut it there, I guess, and I'll kind of the part two of this will kind of be it'll be of how we ended up becoming friends with another group of people. And that kind of ties into a little bit before Bert went to the hospital. So yeah, because I don't want to be like, I don't want it to be like a fucking 3 hour video, because I feel like I can talk forever and ever. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and conclude this first part. And hopefully you guys are enjoying the videos. Hopefully you're liking the tea, and this is kind of be like an opener of how I am the way I am, why I am the way I am, life after, like, life after being at home with like my dad and stuff and my stepmom. But yeah, so we're gonna end the video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for sharing, oh my god, thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, all those things. And of course, if you're new here, go ahead and give it a like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next Monday.